We've got a really exciting game coming up in the Jimmy V Classic on Tuesday night at MSG. So joining me today is Chris Harry. He covers the Gators for FloridaGators.com. So Chris, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, Jared, nice to be with you.
Yeah, so I know this Gators team, like UConn, has really challenged itself in the non-conference here. Just give us, just to start, kind of your overall thoughts on where this Gators team stands at this point, as you start to wind down the non-conference heading into this matchup against UConn.
Yeah, I mean, this will be the ninth game of the season, and I believe UConn will represent the third team that's currently ranked in the top five that Florida has played. Of course, they opened the season with Arizona in Las Vegas. Arizona at the time, I think was 13th or 15th, but now they're up to number two. They're coming off, to your point, a visit to Cameron Indoor, which was just an amazing game Tuesday night. Had lead with 20 seconds to go and could not hold on to it. And then now, obviously, playing UConn in a neutral site game. At best, it's a semi-neutral under the KenPom.com metrics or whatever. But the Gators know what they're getting into. This time last year, Florida started the non-conference season 13-0, one of three teams to go undefeated going into conference play. But they didn't challenge themselves nearly as much. They scheduled somewhat ambitiously, but some of the teams ended up not being very good. Their toughest game was probably a game against North Carolina in Charlotte in the Jordan Brand Classic. But this has been quite a different animal. Florida, obviously, have to replace some really, really good players. They're still trying to figure some things out. And when you have to figure them out against the likes of Arizona and Duke, TCU, which won the tournament, the MET that they were in out in San Diego, and now having to face UConn. So they have challenged themselves, but the record, it may not be what they want right now, but Todd Golden is a very optimistic coach, and he's not discouraged. He believes this team will be playing really good basketball down the line because of the challenges that they're putting themselves through now.
I'm curious, how has Coach Golden and this team dealt with some of the pressures of being the defending national champs? Because we saw it here at UConn, obviously, the first year after they won, and then, after they'd won the back-to-back, clearly a lot of pressure, people talking three-peat and things like that. So how has this team kind of responded to some of those pressures that come with being the defending national champ?
Oh, it's early, but they haven't obviously handled it as well as UConn did the first time. So, I mean, right out of the box, Arizona. I mean, and
Yeah,
that was in Vegas, which was basically a home game. I mean,
for Arizona.
people just drove from Arizona for that game, but that's what he wanted to do. They played again. The Cameron Indoor was not something that Todd scheduled. That was part of the ACC SEC challenge. Um, but what they're talking about, I mean, you can say they're trying to repeat or whatever, but I mean, when you remove Walter Clayton Jr. and Elijah Martin and Will Richard from the conversation, those are three players that were NBA draft picks this past year. In one draft, Florida had three players drafted in the last 12 years. So you take away 57% of the offense, and you take away in Walter Clayton Jr. Maybe the best shot maker in college basketball last season. Certainly one of the most clutch players of the last. He was what I'll put it in Husky vernacular. He was Kemba Walker last year.
Yeah.
When one player can literally put you on your back and or put your team on the back and drive you through a tournament like Walter Clayton did with the Gators last season. So they're finding their way, and they've had to try to do it with a transfer backcourt. And it's been rough going so far, but it's a work in progress. And we remind everybody along the way. Todd Golden reminds everybody along the way. It's very early in the process.
Yeah, and I like the comparison there because I know UConn fans got all caught up to speed last year with Walter and what he's able to do
That's right.
because they faced each other in the second round of the NCAA tournament. But based on what you're saying, research that UConn fans have done, clearly a bit of a different Gators team though heading into this matchup here. Who have been some of the guys to keep an eye on that have stepped into some bigger roles that they might be familiar with from last year's matchup?
Well, the first that jumps out is Thomas Howard. So he was the sixth man on the team last year, but at the end of the game, he was on the floor. He's just a terrific player. He can shoot it. He can make plays inside. He attacks the basket. He's an incredible high effort player. This is a guy who's, I think he only during the season when Alex Condon got hurt,
Hmm.
Tommy stepped into a role and started 4 games in a row. Almost had a triple double in a road game at Mississippi State. And Florida played some of its best basketball when he was in the starting lineup. But he has taken on a completely different role. He played almost exclusively the 4 for his first 2 seasons. Now he stepped down and is playing the 3 spot. Alex Condon, everyone remembers him from last season. He's back. He and Tommy are the same class juniors. Starting at the 4, Ruben Chinyelu was on the team last year. He was terrific last year. Knows his role. Big guy, rebounder, bodies up defensively. And then you had Micah Hanlockton, who joined the team, 7-1 backup center, who joined the team late after suffering sitting out most of the season after having a compound fracture. He hadn't been. He's really struggled the last couple games since he got a concussion against Miami, and
Okay.
he's looks like he's playing a little bit tentative. But those are the four. Excuse me, 4 players back from that national championship team that were really part of the rotation in the NCAA tournament. Urban Clabbs, our shooter off the bench, was with the team last season and was a pivotal player during the SEC season, but didn't play much in the tournament. The focus of this team right now, and a lot of people are locking in on the transfer backcourt of Boogie
Yeah.
Flan by way of Arkansas and Xavier Lee by way of Princeton, who are still trying to mesh things out right now.
Yeah, always tricky when you get these transfers, especially at the point guard position, trying to get up to
Mhm.
speed at the new system here. What have you seen out of them in these first, few weeks, month of the season here that gives Gator fans some promise about what they might be able to bring down the stretch here?
Well, Boogie missed a big chunk of the season last year at Arkansas after having hand surgery
Yeah.
and came back late. I want to say the last maybe 3 or 4 games of the season, and when Arkansas made a nice little run to the Sweet 16. And he comes down here, he has to have hernia surgery, so he missed a good portion of the summertime. So that cost them some time in terms of getting meshed a little bit. But he's finding his way a little bit. I mean, he was a 5.5 assist guy at Arkansas, and right now Florida's not a high assist team. They're more like a playmaking team, and Todd Dolan
Mhm.
doesn't want that. He wants
Yeah.
he wants assist numbers. But Boogie is starting to come into his own offensively in terms of scoring the basketball. He's a very good mid-range player. He started out slowly. I think he's right around 27% from 3, but he made a big one to give him the lead with 30 seconds to go in that Duke game the other night. He had, I think, 17 points in that game the other night. The big guy, the big thing going on right now, and that everyone is talking about is Xavier Lee was the first team All Ivy League at Princeton. A lot of people wanted him out of the transfer portal, and he just can't figure out how to put the ball in the basket. I think he's at 17% from the 3 point line. Excuse me, I think he's 21% now from the 3 point line. He was 1 for 10 at Duke the other day, and they tried a lot of things, but I mean, he's going to have to, the shooting guard has to make shots. He just
Yeah.
has to. And there's got to come to a point, if it continues, a decision has to be made. But I was at practice today. Todd Gold, I mean, nothing's changing right now. They believe in this guy. But he has to start, I think, believing in himself a little more because he's really, really struggled. Now, 2 games ago, in the consolation game out in San Diego of their Thanksgiving tournament,
Mhm.
he kind of broke out a little bit, made 4 threes, scored 20 points, but then kind of reverted at Cameron, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to do. But here comes UConn, and we'll see what will happen there. Boogie Flan, a kid from the Bronx, looking
Yeah.
forward to coming home and playing in front of his hometown crowd. He's going to have like 50, 60 family and friends there. So a lot of attention on those 2 guys this weekend or this
Yeah, I
week.
know UConn fans can relate a little bit to the Lee situation with Aiden Mahaney last year on this team, who had great numbers at a program similar with at St. Mary's, had gone all out there and then struggled adjusting to a newer system at UConn in their style here. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out for the Gators. Something I've certainly got my eye on in this matchup and going forward. Basketball season's back, and just like our favorite team, Martin Rosals knows the value of tradition, quality, and consistency. Since 1928, Rosals has been Connecticut's go-to for hot dogs, kielbasa, and sausages, made fresh, never frozen, using the same original family recipes that have built a lasting legacy. So before tip-off, make sure your grill lineup is ready. Look for Martin Rosel's at your local grocery store or visit their retail store in New Britain to stock up for game day. Is there someone under the radar on this Gators team that UConn fans might not know the name of, but maybe there's someone who could come off the bench and light things up a little bit on Tuesday night?
Really, they only played like seven guys, and they're looking for that under the radar guy, and
Okay.
they haven't been able to find him right now. They got two freshmen who they like, but their minutes are way down from maybe when the season started. And CJ Ingram, who was a top 30 kind of prospect, a more highly recruited quarterback initially, who decided to quit football and concentrate on basketball, and really blew up once he went to once he went to the academy here
Okay.
in Florida. Alex Lloyd is another freshman. They would love something to happen with him, but right now they're like Todd Dunn like to play a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Okay, he likes to settle on his rotation, but this is a confounding situation for him because he usually messes around uses the non-conference season to mess around, and that rotation shrinks and shrinks as the season goes on. So if there is an under the radar guy out there, Jarrett, they would love to find him maybe Tuesday night in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that continues to play out. In the losses that they've had, whether it's Duke, TCU, Arizona, have there been any common themes, but amongst those losses, or has it kind of been different styles that have just beaten them up through those few games there?
Well, I'd throw Duke out and just say Duke's really good,
Yeah,
and Cameron Boozer could be the first player in the draft next year,
yeah,
and
definitely.
he just had a whale of a game. Now he had 29, I think, and 12 maybe in that game, but I got to say they did a pretty damn good job on him in the second half in controlling him and making him try to go to his left hand. He got some shots off, but sure, but he's gonna do that because he's so good.
Yeah,
But in the two losses, you're talking about the Arizona loss and you're talking about the TCU loss. The common denominators there were allowing downhill drives, too much. They pride themselves in owning the paint. They didn't do it in either game, and turnovers. I think it was 16 against Arizona and 19 against TCU. And it's a game they led by 10 in the second half, and they were kicking themselves on the flight back home after having let that one slip away the way they did in the first round game. So. I imagine UConn watches a lot of film. Danny
yeah.
Hurley's a great coach. They're going to try to put some pressure on the basketball and run through lanes and do the kind of things that will force turnovers and try to play to what to this point has been a weakness of the Florida team.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup on Tuesday. I know UConn fans hoping Terrace Reed is back in this one, their center, because the size of Florida is certainly always
Right.
overwhelming there. So I think it makes for an interesting matchup here. But
I'll say this also, and I just complete. They are right now at 27, I think, 0.4%, the lowest percentage 3-point shooting of any of the power conference
oh
teams.
wow,
So when you're talking about a team that a year ago had Walter and had Will and
yeah,
had Elijah, that's something that they're not used to, and something that they absolutely has to be approved upon.
yeah. As you look at this matchup against UConn, anything that sticks out to you that you think Florida matches up well against what you've seen or heard of this UConn team this year?
Well, Florida is going to lean into its offensive rebounding. It's going to crash the glass. They're the fifth best offensive rebound team in the country. They're getting over 40% of their misses now. The problem is they're not converting on those misses. They're great at getting offensive rebounds, kicking them out for open 3-pointers, but it's been a lost cause the way Florida's been clanging threes most of the time. But they're not gonna change anything. It's way too early in the season. You practice all off season with an idea and a plan for how you want to play. And just talking to Todd today, you just got to do it better. These guys have to play better. They've been told that. And, if again, to my point earlier, things continue, then you got to start looking for other avenues to try to make things better. And it's not like you can go out and get guys, right?
Yeah.
You got to make it work with what you got.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I really appreciate you joining us to give some insight into this game. I know everyone's really looking forward to a matchup of the past two national champions here. It's going to make for a fun one in New York City on Tuesday night. So, Chris, appreciate it, and thanks so much for joining me.
All right, Joe. See you in New York. Take care.